Melanie challenges me to have these conversations. And she says, we are big people put in big positions to have big conversations with our daughters.
Come on.
See, because my parents didn't have a lot of conversations with me. And so I found out a lot of things by friends, by trial and error. And so it's
Tell me
like,
about that.
and so it's, and you know, like I ended up at 14 years old getting into a relationship with a woman, a married woman with 2 children. I was a man child. At 15 years old, I was 6 foot, 215 pounds. So I was a man child.
The man child. Yeah.
I was literally a man child. I was a big boy. But I'm having a full-blown relationship because of curiosity with a married woman with 2 children. Well, that's rape.
Wow.
And so that's how I learned about like real sexuality. We had horses, so I knew what went where,
Right.
right?
And I bet y'all can be like, look, guys.
Yeah, you know,
yeah.
so but
It's a spectacle.
but to actually for my father to like sit me down and have this mano a mano conversation
That's
really
heavy,
like
man.
helped me understand like the severity of it. It was just kind of more it was a little bit taboo, you know? But so it's like now I can't not have those conversations with
That's really
my
good.
daughters.
Man. That's really good.
So yeah, Melanie has these conversations, but I'm there and I'm like I'm having these conversations with my girls, with Melanie, and when we're talking about these things. Journey is 8.
I know. So how did that go though, man? I mean, for those that have to have these conversations or don't know how to even initiate these conversations because they're teaching their kids all of this since preschool.
There.
It's sad to say now again, remember we've always talked about every subject openly here, but it almost seems like almost an indoctrination and acceptance. And there are several states and several school districts that actually protect the child to have that personal confidence with their teacher if they choose to do or not do or to transgender or to choose their identity. They themselves are protected by the state to do so privately. And there's other states like Oregon. This is facts. This is you could do the research in Oregon and in Washington, I believe, is next. Is that they can be removed from their home by CPS if you choose not to allow the kids to make that decision. I mean, we're talking about preschoolers, and they're choosing their gender, and they can't even choose their own bedtime, but they're choosing their gender. And by law, if you go against it and the teacher protects the child because of this new law, CPS will remove them from your custody.
Yeah, I heard that. And you know, it's hard, you know, coming from the West Coast. It's hard. And I have friends out there. I actually have a friend that moved to Utah, and his sister was in the school district. And some of the books that they were reading, some of the curriculum, and you're just going, my God. So, you know, you're having to have these conversations. But Melanie said, I would rather have a tough conversation on the front end than to have a heartbreaking conversation on the back end.
This is so true. So I had a tough one today. My daughter's old enough to get married. She's engaged. The young man she's with, he's a great boy. I mean, I think he at the beginning as a dad, you know, we have guns, we have ammo. Whenever we decide to, when we have this conversation, when our girls are dating, as being a girl dad, I'm certain you'll have guns because we're Texan, right? And we got plenty of ammo.
Once I moved here, I arsenaled up.
Oh yeah, yeah, there you go. So
did Melanie.
Yeah. So that's a different podcast, but
yeah,
what we want to be so protective of them. So
sure.
When she told me I'm in love, and she was dating this young man for a couple years at the beginning, and he knows this, and we share this also with our friends in our friend group. I had a problem with it. I had a problem with it. Number one, he was a little bit older. And number two, I just felt like, you know, this is my princess, you know, this is my daughter.
Yeah.
And you got to earn this. You got to earn this. And at that time, my daughter had an encounter with God. She had went through a very difficult situation, traumatic experience before the age of 17. And then she ran towards God, and then God touched her. And most people say, well, what does that mean? What? No, let me explain. The Holy Spirit got a hold of her.
Yeah.
And then she started in the pursuit of God. And then she was introduced to deliverance ministry where she was on fire for it. But then it kind of quenched. Then she started dating. And then you started seeing the pattern of like, okay, so I'm going to date somebody. And then the effort for ministry went off. Not bringing all that up. She dated, she went and did what she had to do. She's still in school, all that. And then he earned my respect with time because he made her happy. He pursued her. He went against everything that was contradicted to him or that was an obstacle for him. But the most amazing thing is that he asked me for permission. Like nobody does that. Sometimes they either elope or whatever. It is what it is. But he asked me for permission in November for her hand. He bought her a ring. And I thought to myself, well, love is powerful. Love is great. Love, where there's love, there's hope. And like every relationship, they had a snag, conversation or disagreement and what have you. And we just had one of those come to Jesus conversations right before this podcast. And without going into details, just like my heart was hurting because as a dad, I'm trying to say, hell no, like run. But as a minister, I believe in hope and greatness in his life because he's also a child of God. He's also in the pursuit of God, not where I would be, but let's be honest, like, could we put a standard on, could we basically gauge people and say, oh, this person's holier than that person, that person? I mean, we already make a mistake when we do that. So I said, no, love is strong enough. Like the Bible says, I think love will endure all, love will conquer all, and they're going to have to sacrifice for it. But we had that talk. But as a dad, I was biting my tongue, and Darlene was just like, she's so calm, she's so chill, and she gives so much words of wisdom because I was speaking from a father's heart, but then God kind of revealed things to me to speak as a pastoral heart. And she just kind of just cleaned up my emotional mess and made it seem very relevant to her. And she left, we prayed. And man, as a dad, it's like, man, dude, like I'm so protective over them. But I also have to let them live. I also have to let them fail.
Yeah.
They have to walk it out. They have to flesh it out like we did. We're just trying to prevent it from them because, as they say, sometimes prevention is protection. But that's not really, that's parenting. But also, it becomes at the age of 20, because she's 20, that becomes her personal walk. That becomes her personal story. That becomes her story, her testimony, whatever it may be. And you got them young, man. So it gets Mia, she's about to be 20, and then Zoe, my youngest, is 16. So they're all driving. They're all, well, not the youngest one, that she's about to start driving, and I'm just like, man, I'm like really nervous about it, man, because I want them to make a great decision. And I want to be able to sleep at night as a dad. Have you ever like even considered, even think of that, man?
Yeah. So because I have all brothers, between me and Melanie, I am the helicopter parent. So I am the overprotective helicopter parent. Like I know where my daughters are in any given room. Like I don't care if I'm leading worship or I'm speaking. I know when they walk in the room. I know when they don't walk in the room. That's probably a lot of my tactical training.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of, so I mean I know when Melanie walks in the building, and so sometimes Melanie's like, bro, you gotta chill.
Oh.
Because I'm just like I don't want them, but I got them in jujitsu, I got them in Muay Thai, I got them in sports,
Really?
and so on that aspect, like I want to be able to prepare them, but Melanie helps me because I want to save them from all of that, but I know that I cannot. That's hard for me. That's hard for me to admit to them.
Yeah.
It's hard for me, and Melanie tells me all the time, and she'll laugh when she sees this. It's like, Daddy, I can't find it. And Melanie be like, baby, go find it. You can find it. I'll be like, I'll go find it for him. I'm not helping that situation, right? Because
Yeah.
they're going to need to be able to find it for themselves.
Yeah.
So I've had to start saying, I'm not going to find it for you. You're going to have to find it yourself.
I get it.
Right. And so, like, as much as I want to, as much as I'm a dad, as much as I want to save them from all of that, you know, it's like, ooh,
Yeah.
I tell Melanie, like, I'm not ready, because that first fool that breaks my daughter's heart, I'm like, yo,
Mhm.
I got mats out in my garage.
Yeah.
Let's have just a little party. Just tell your dad, sign the waiver. Just be 10 minutes.
What
It's just gonna
waiver? What are you talking about?
Yeah,
This is
exactly.
Texas.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. You're on my property, boy.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But I know that I'm not going to be able to save them from all of that.